Okay, so the good news is I don't think this is we're gonna skip the group work, so this probably, hopefully will be under an hour, because it usually takes an hour. Woo-hoo. Okay, so those of you who do not know me, which most of you at this point probably do, I'm Casey Snow. I'm an occupational therapist. And welcome to the person that I don't know. And I have been working with kids in this, actually this population for 16 years now. I used to work at Barnett as well too. So this presentation that I'm giving you today was developed by myself and another woman by the name of Michelle Rosenau. For those of you who happen to know her, she was a clinical coordinator at Barnum Residential Treatment Center. So we did this, the reason why we created this slide, or did this presentation, is literally for staff that are working hands-on with kids. So, so direct care professionals, and our goal is for you guys to be able to recognize behaviors, whether they're cognitively or behaviorally challenged. So, because we feel like it makes a difference on where it's coming from, the behavior comes from, and how we should work with that kid. The other piece that I want to just kind of reiterate and strengthen is last time we talked, or the last time I did my training about sensory integration. I just want to reinforce sensory integration is to get that kid to the right spot. So this is like what you would do after that, after you get the kid to that right fit. Right fit is, you know, if they're too anxious, you kind of get them down. If they're depressed, you kind of get them more alert. So sensory integration is kind of like that first 10 minutes so that you can get the kid to learn. Now this is the meat, this is now what to do to help them learn. And that's going to be dependent on whether they are lower functioning or if they're behavioral. And so our goal today is to try to get you guys, or help you guys to kind of figure out, where is this coming from? Where's this behavior coming from? Okay, any questions? Okay, so this is just what we're going to do today, determining the differences, tips with the populations. We are going to, I'm skipping the group work, so hopefully you can just plow right through and hopefully be done. So overall, when we have a kid, really our first task is to look at that kid. And when we look at the kid, we cannot just look at their IQ or their personality or their interests or their families or their diagnosis, or because really they're all a puzzle, and no two kids are the same, because no two kids have the same family, two kids come from the same friends, or come from the same community. Welcome. So really, all of our kids are different, and so we're trying to put this puzzle piece together, and it's really difficult because we're trying different things, and we're going to try this, and we're going to try this. Did you know a doctor on average tries 7 different strategies to try to figure out one diagnosis? You know, that's and the same, that 7 number goes for parents with working with behaviors with their children as well. So it's a process of elimination. You know, a lot of times if you've done it a while or you've been in the business a while, you know, Sammy kind of looks like Johnny, and this worked for Johnny, so I'm going to try this on Sammy. You know, hopefully some of this stuff that we're going through today can kind of help you figure out, you know, the why or where this is coming from. So, I'm going to pick on somebody who wants to give me a definition for low functioning. So if you think of a kid as low functioning, what do you think of?
Think of a kid who has difficulty with social interactions. I think of a kid who would probably have difficulty following instructions, operating in school or at a job or anything like that. It's kind of a broad.
Can't do daily functions.
Can't do daily chores without aid.
Prompting or hand over hand.
Yeah, right. And does that have to mean that they have a low IQ?
No.
No, not necessarily. Some of them have expressive language issues or receptive, so like it's slower for them to process things in their head before they're able to speak. Some people process things just fine, but then the right words can't come out. So it could be, it's a large number of different things that causes kids to be lower functioning. But usually there are underlying issues within the brain or the body. So diagnoses that tend to be consistent with this are MR, low IQ, autism, Asperger's, schizophrenia, PDD, or childish and creative disorder. Okay, now I know I kind of gave this one away, but definitions of oppositional. So Webster's definition is an act of opposition, a state of being opposition, resistance, autonomy, political party opposing the party of the person in power. So can somebody give me an example of a kid that's oppositional? Just one example, please.
When you ask a kid to say something and they tell you, fuck you, I'm not gonna do it.
Right, that's definitely oppositional. How about, does anybody know that kid that no matter what you say, even if it's something not of importance or doing, that they're gonna say the opposite, or they're gonna not even say the opposite, but you could be walking and they're in a great mood and everything's going fine, and it just seems like it's a great day for them and they're happy and you're happy, and the next thing you know, you go, wow, this guy is so blue today, and they go, no, it's not, it's great. You know, that kid, and it has nothing, you know, it feels like there's no behavior attached to that. It doesn't feel like they're even in a bad mood. You know, that truly is oppositional. So how can we determine the difference? Okay, so observation. Observation meaning you're just looking at them. Can you sometimes just look at a child and know? So this is where I'm going to bring you to one of your handouts, the goals of misbehavior, the causes of misbehavior. So if you have a gut feeling, if you feel annoyed, if you feel, sorry, I'm going to grab, if you feel annoyed, if you feel angry or threatened, if you feel hurt or angry, or you hopeless or giving up, a lot of the times if you're with that child and they're invoking these feelings within you, it's usually a goal of misbehavior. So it's usually behavioral. The other ways we know, and thankfully we're in this setting, is we actually have, we get reports and we have clinical people that we can talk to and look to. So we get the diagnosis, you know, we have the doctors, the psychiatrists, at our fingertips. We're just a question away or a phone call away or a report away. So you can look through those formal assessments. You can see if there's a diagnosis of Asperger's. You can see if there's a diagnosis of conduct disorder. You can see, you know, a lot of times they actually have the IQ tests in these assessments. So we're kind of lucky and blessed to be in a position outside of like the school, because a lot of times the schools don't quite know, you know, they don't have all of those abilities. And if you're a para, you know, at a school district, sometimes you're just shooting in the dark, literally darts, because you don't have that access. So one of the things that I'd like to get across today is that to utilize our resources, ask those questions. You know, let's really dig into this. So we're going to start out with tips of working with individuals who are lower functioning or low functioning. Low functioning, you know, kids that have a lower IQ, kids that are have developmental delays, kids that just their body is unable to give us what we want all the time. And how can we tell? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna look at, I'm gonna kind of go through the different slides, and then we're gonna kind of go back and kind of compare how they're broadly different. So if you're working with individuals who are lower functioning, the first thing you want to do is teach everything through repetition. And when I mean repetition, I don't mean give them steps. I do mean, I'm gonna use go mop as the example. If I tell a kid, could you please go mop? I'm actually telling them, go get the mop bucket, go get the water, go get the soap, put the water and the soap into the bucket, get the mop, dump it in, put it in, pull it out. So, I'm gonna skip over to number 2, which is simple directions. So when I tell them go mop, you would think that that's a simple direction because it's only 2 words. I don't want you to tell kids go mop, because now what we've done is, it's bigger than that, it's harder than that. So we can't just say go mop and think that we did it simple because we only used 2 words. I mean, I would rather hear you say, let's mop, it's time to mop. So you're not really giving them a choice, but you're saying it's time to do this. And when you say it's time to do this, now you go, we're gonna break it down into, do you wanna get the bucket or do you wanna get the mop? Do you wanna get the water? Do you wanna get the soap? So what we're doing is breaking down those actual tasks, the individual into small, simple directions. Now, the first one I'm gonna go back to is repetition. Yes, we're gonna teach that skill through repetition, but with kids that are lower functioning, what we wanna do is something called backwards chaining, not forward chaining. If forward chaining is we're gonna teach step number 1, 2, and 3, and then we're gonna help them, we're gonna do it over and over and over, and then we're gonna forget about 4 and 5 for a while until we got 1, 2, and 3 done. And that works great for those higher functioning kids to teach them that way. But the lower functioning kids, we actually need to do steps number 1, 2, and 3, and then we want to include them in step number 4, 5. This is called backwards chaining because what we're giving them is instant gratification, immediate feedback, so when they get the job done. So if you help them tie their shoe, steps 1, 2, and 3, and then you tie it for them, and then they finish it, and they're done, you go, yay, great job, I'm so excited, you guys did it. We did it together, you did a great job. You're giving that instant feedback, positive reinforcement right away. If you tie their shoe, if you do the opposite, they do steps number 1, 2, and 3, and you do 3 and 4, now, lower functioning kid, if you finish it, the job, they're saying, you tied the shoe, I didn't do it. Let's see the difference? So really, what we want to do is we want to teach them through repetition. We want to break those steps down to smaller steps, and we want to always help them as needed. But when you're teaching a new task, please help them with the beginning stuff, and then celebrate the end. Let them do the end and celebrate. But that requires you guys to really remember what you did last time, how far they are at learning that task, right? So it's asking a lot more of the caregiver. So the caregiver needs to be very active, and that's you guys. Set routines. Set routines is really not time-based routines. They're more after we get up, we do we wash our face, then we wash our hands, and then we shower, and then we clean our bedroom, and then we get ready, then we use the toilet, and then we have breakfast, and then we pack our backpack, and then we go to school. So those routines are still going to be the same routines, but they're not going to be time-based. So we're not going to expect that child at 8 o'clock every single morning is doing brushing their hair. What we do require, though, is that they're on the bus at 8:15, correct? So they have to, the expectation and the routine is still that they have to be on the bus at 8:15. But the routine, it isn't so much as how fast they do it or their timing being perfect. It's about getting that good routine and then sticking to that routine. So, set routines. The other one is peer role modeling, not adult role modeling. So if I role model to a child, this is how we do it. even with mopping the floor, they kind of can look at that and go, well, you can do it because you're an adult. So in this situation, having peers model or peers working or peers developing other peers is really the ideal model. Because now we have them looking at other children and they say, well, if Sammy can do it, I can do it. You know, Johnny is saying, well, shoot, Sammy can do it. He's younger than me, or he's my age, or he's here too. If he can do it, I can do it. The next one is immediate feedback. Immediate feedback literally means immediate feedback. So I like token systems a lot because token system really means that they're getting that immediate feedback. It doesn't have to be this big, like, woo, and it doesn't mean that that they're gonna get that gift then and there, and we have to disrupt the whole entire classroom because that child now was on task and they want something. You know, it's not like, okay, now I earned a pop, let's go get it, right? That token system means that you give them that piece of paper, or you give them that fake dollar, or you give them, you know, that coin that they slip in their pocket. But it doesn't have to be something. Immediate feedback is the way to change behaviors every time. And it is a genuine smile sometimes, you guys. So a fake smile comes from the mouth. A genuine smile comes from the eyes. Every single one of us knows the difference between a fake and a genuine smile. We sense it. There is an emotional, chemical thing that happens in our body when people are smiling and noticing us. We get warm and fuzzy and we feel good. Does anybody know, has anybody ever seen a baby who doesn't like getting looked at? When babies are first little, they love being looked at. People love being looked at when they're little. It's innate. So give them a real, genuine smile. Be happy for them. When they do something that is good, and it might be that they sat there for 5 minutes, but notice that they sat there for 5 minutes. Notice it. Smile about it. You know, give them a wink, like, or a thumbs up, like, you know, because they did it, and that's awesome. You know, and I know it's hard, but go ahead.
I was thinking, when you were just saying, like, how babies like being looked at, it does definitely transfer to the older kids too, in certain ways. Have you seen that one video? It was from an experiment of mothers who had their babies, and they were interacting normally with their babies, and then they just, like, looked at them stone-faced for a while, and the baby started getting confused.
Yeah, I've seen that.
That's a good one.
They cry.
They start crying. They start getting really distressed, and then, like, I think eventually, at least some of them, they kind of just, like, shut down. They're just like, and their mom starts to interact with them again, and then everything's cool.
Yeah, I'm so happy right now because we showed that in our trauma informed care training.
You did.
Well, Michelle and then Emma Levinsky, but yes, that's absolutely.
Yeah, and so and these kids are no different than that, you guys. They really, truly, genuinely want that attention, that positive attention, and it comes from you. You're as the acting parent now, guys. So we're so lucky to have you. We're thankful for you. You guys do a fabulous job, getting better every day, and I know it's a hard job. So we value you guys. Okay, so the next one is value accuracy over speed. So we really, when we're teaching new skills especially, we really want them to get it and get it done right. We would rather have them complete the task and have it completed well than quickly and half-assed. If I can use that word, sorry. Because we really want to value the fact that they did it with quality rather than quantity, because the quality is more important. You know, sometimes the speed is gonna be slower, but really, what we really want is that accuracy. Use visual reminders. Visual reminders are everywhere. If you look around the room, I think we have visual reminders of the rules, we have visual reminders of expectations, we have visual reminders of what's coming up. You know, sometimes, we all have calendars. I love my calendar on my phone because it's a visual reminder of kind of what's expected of me, what's coming up, what do I need to focus on, how should I prioritize my time in my day. So again, these are great things for these kids because these cues, some of them, a lot of times, I know we talked about that sensor piece last time and about how some people are more auditory, some people are more visual. But what we do know is that if anytime you add 2 to 3 senses at the same time, people are more kinetic and they're learning that information. So if they're hearing it and seeing it, they're learning it way better than if you just if you're just verbally reminding them. Remember, we have study hall today at 3 o'clock. By 3 o'clock, that went in one ear and out the other. So we really need to be, doing more than one sense at a time. Hearing, seeing, touching, learning as much as possible. Using transitions. Again, visual reminders are a great way to use transitions. If we have these ongoing visual reminders that say we're going to be doing this and we're going to be doing this and we're going to be doing this, a lot of times lower function kids get anxious whenever they get confused. So confusion is a key to anxiety. So if we're using transitions, we're telling them that this is coming. Remember, these kids work really well with set routines. So we want to kind of keep that set routine, but we're going to let them know ahead of time that this is going to be something odd is coming. And kind of we're prepping them. If you have a kid that's, so anxiety isn't necessarily considered low functioning, but we have kids who have anxiety and are low functioning. So if you have a really anxious kid, kind of don't do this a week in advance and tell them they've got a staffing coming. Do it a day in advance, depending on, you know the kid, you know the situation. Okay, so use examples. If you use the example, like I had a friend in high school whose kid did this, and then this happened, you lost that child. You cannot use abstract examples. When you're using examples with this kid, you're going to talk about this particular kid, and you're going to talk about a situation that has already occurred, that they've already done, or that they witnessed. But you want to use examples that are as perfect to that child or that child being in it, because they really have trouble generalizing. So, I've had kids that in clinic with me, they can do a social skill over and over and over, but once they get to school, that social skill is out the window. It's gone. They didn't generalize it from this setting to this setting. So we actually have to go back and practice it in this setting in order. And in that situation, using the example of, okay, I might even say to that kid, okay, now close your eyes, pretend all of this background stuff is gone, and pretend that we're back in the clinic. So now I want us to practice this skill again, because that part didn't matter. So you want to really be specific with these kids. I certainly can't talk about my good friend's friend whose child did this. That's not going to work. Sometimes I can use examples about myself, and that works. I've used examples about myself that's never happened before to kids. I'm sorry. It's just, you can't say my sister's girlfriend's friend, it just doesn't work. They've lost you. They've lost you.
Regular people probably get lost in all of that.
Yes, people do that.
I don't
Okay.
mean to say regular people, but you know what I mean.
I do know what you mean, yeah. Realistic expectations. So, the reason why I bring up realistic expectations is because this population is really funny, because you might have thought that you had a skill 100% down. You've worked on this for 2 weeks. They're mopping the floor every single day, for 2 weeks straight and you've spent all this time and energy on it, and now today you say, go mop, because you just spent 2 weeks going through each of the different skills and how to mop. And they did it for the last 3 days straight, but today you say, go mop, and they fall apart. And they can't remember. They have no idea where the stuff is. That behavior sometimes is anxiety. Sometimes it's they're not in their head. Sometimes their sleep schedule is off. Sometimes I've found kids that are lower functioning. Sometimes if they have to poop or they're hungry, all of a sudden those higher functioning skills are not there. I know it sounds funny, but it just plain happens.
It's also human nature. It's true. I mean, we're not 100% at anything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 80% accuracy is a good thing. I mean, if anyone here is 100% accurate at getting up the first time their alarm beeps, like, you need to get out of a room because you're not human. Like, there's a reason why we set goals to be 80% of opportunities or 80% of days we're going to be successful in something, because no one is. I mean, shoot, I almost fell off a chair twice earlier today. I mean, I'm not 100% at that, but that doesn't mean I'm a failure.
Right.
It means I'm human.
So the next one we want to talk about is setting up the environment. When I go into a person's home who's recently had a stroke or has a new disability, the very first thing people do is they have a therapist come in who says, we need a grab bar here, we need a rail here, we need a higher chair, that's not gonna work, we need to get chairs with rails here. And so one of my job is to go in and set up the environment. And that's somebody with a new disability. The hard part about these kiddos is that nobody comes in and says, oh, we need to do this, we need to do that, and that for that particular child. However, when we talked last week about setting up the environment, remember how we talked about alerting environments and calming environments, and so really these kids need the exact same thing. We need to make the environment to kind of fit that child and that child's needs. So some kids really need visual reminders everywhere, and other kids are going to be super distracted by it. And unfortunately, we are here in residential treatment. We have kids on both ends of the spectrum. We are not blessed in terms of having one population that we're working with. So it's really kind of difficult to set that up. However, their rooms are their rooms. Please, if you have a kid going through depression, encourage them to make black light posters and get a lamp with black light. Get them as bright as possible. Help them pick up music. Help them put color in their wardrobe. Help them do, these things. But if you have a kid that's ADHD bouncing off the walls, get their room as quiet as possible. Sage green is apparently the most calming color there is out there. So pick your sage greens, pick your lighting. Don't put the covers over the fluorescent bulbs. Do your smells. You can do the different aromatherapies. You can do the different types of plugins. Just try to do what you can do to just set up that environment to make the kid as successful as possible. Any questions about working with kids that are lower functioning? Okay, now we're going to switch to kids that are oppositional. Now, did you see how the last one, we're talking about repetition, simple directions, routine, positive reinforcement, peer role modeling. Now we're talking about structure, consistency, time out, interpretation, limit setting. The wording is so different. Some of the acts may look similar, but they're really quite different. So, what is the difference between structure and routine? Can somebody help me with this one? What's structure?
An
Yeah.
outline of a plan for expectations and what
Perfect. Wow, that was like a dictionary
Made
definition.
it up as I went.
Wow, you should be a dictionary. That is great. That is great.
I'm not hungry and I don't want to go to bed.
You don't need a halt.
Yes.
Remember
So,
the DB2 training? Halt. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired.
Yep.
yeah,
There should be really
absolutely.
a letter in there for you. Maybe use the bathroom because that's a legit one.
There is a legit, it's your sixth optic nerve. It runs right by your ears. So a lot of times when people have to poop, their ears are the first thing to shut off. Isn't that the craziest thing? The nerve kind of goes, it's the same nerve. Weird. Weird how our body is formed. Okay, so structure. Jordan did a great job talking about structure. Now with this kid, can we expect that at 7 o'clock they're out of bed, at 8 o'clock they're at breakfast, at 8:30 they're on the bus, at 9 o'clock? Do they have that time management skills?
Not typically.
Not typically. But there is still structure. I mean, there's still like this has to happen and this has to happen. You're not going to have to teach them through routine. You know, the expectation is this, and this get done by breakfast. You don't need a set routine. You don't have to practice like you have to brush your teeth before you brush your. In fact, there has been kids that we've went through with grooming that you don't use the washcloth on your hair after you wiped your butt. You know, these kids logically figure that stuff out. It's not something that we teach. You know, they've got that all by themselves. You know, we just have to expect that this is it. When you shower, you come out and you smell good. Right? Consistency. What is consistency? Go ahead.
I guess keeping it up, just continuing what you're doing
Good.
and making sure it's repetitive
Great.
until it works out.
It's repetitive. It's the same. Basically, it's the same expectations, right? Now, the kids that are oppositional have a tendency to, I'm going to pick on you. What's your name?
Ernest.
Ernest. Can I do
Yes.
this? Ernest, can I do this? Ernest, can I do this something? If you,
Okay.
you say, you're supposed to say no. And then I'm gonna go over here. What's your name? Sabrina. Sabrina. Can I do it? Can I jump off the building? Can I jump off the building? Can I say jump off the building? Can I jump off the building, please?
Why would you want to?
Oh, because there's a trampoline at the bottom and I'm gonna be safe in the
Can you guarantee that?
No.
Then no.
Shoot. Can I do this, please? Please. No. Okay, so you guys are all consistent, but here's what they do. They go from one person to the next person, the next person, the next person, until somebody says yes. So, if that is a kid that is attention seeking, they're gonna go to every single one of you. And they're not gonna ask you one time, they're gonna ask you 10 times. Until finally somebody gives in, right? So, how important is it to be consistent? Does
Very
their
important.
very important. Is their story gonna change? Now
Probably.
there's a trampoline and I'm gonna be safe. I swear to God.
Where'd you get the trampoline?
Who knows? My mom brought it. My mom brought it. But it is gonna, you know, like you're gonna ask like a question and they're gonna ask a question and then they're gonna come up with more and more and more. You know, they're gonna use your answer to get to your answer to get more and more and more. So their consistency is super duper 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 important with this. Everybody's gotta be on the same page. So how do you do that in residential treatment? How?
Communication.
Communication. Do you guys have a program that says, you know, this is kind of like a handbook, policies and procedure, not even that, just even a handbook that says,
Yep.
this is this, this is this, this is this. I don't know what you call your handbook, but if there's ever question, go back to your handbook. So first of all, Ernest is gonna go to Sabrina, and Sabrina's gonna say, I'm kinda new too, I don't know. And if you guys are the only ones on shift, grab your handbook and look it up. And then if you need to, hey, you have an authority, give that piece of paper to the kid and say, it's right there, I don't make the rules, guys. That is so much easier than being a parent, right? Because you do make the rules. Here you have these corporate people, you have the state of Minnesota, you have Department of Human Services making rules. You can say, I don't make the rules. I just abide by them. Do you want me to lose my job?
Some will say yes.
Yeah, they'll say yeah.
So,
That goes back to the relationship, because Michelle and I have pulled that with Lily. I'm like, no, I can't take you off of your safety precaution. We would lose our jobs, we would lose our license, which would result in us losing our homes. And she's like,
so you,
and then because we had that relationship, that of like, no, I'd lose my job. Do you want me to lose my job? Worked.
use that higher authority. Use it in your favor. Help you to be consistent. Interpretation. Interpretation means that you're gonna help that kiddo actually come up with words about what's going on with their behavior. For the kiddo who is walking around asking everybody, you know, you could say, boy, it looks like you're attention seeking right now. And help, if you put that word to it, it's gonna probably send them right into anger. And then it'll probably send them, you know, and they'll wanna get into a power struggle. But you're helping them kind of figure out what it is that's going on with them. You could ask them, like, how are you feeling right now? You could even say, let's hold off on that and, you know, count to I'm busy right now, why don't you, give me 10 minutes and then come on back. And then in 10 minutes, if they've changed their behavior, then make it a yes. And I meant if that kid is going, you know, bouncing from person to person and can I please, you know, that attention seeking behavior. So, helping them interpret what's going on right now. Help them interpret, help put words to it. How are they feeling? What is going on? What does this behavior look like? The second one is time out. I just gave you an example of time out. Although we didn't tell the kid, like, hey, go into time out. Did we tell the kid, go into time out? No. Let me help you calm down. Why don't we take a break for a minute? Let's take a couple breaths. All right, I'm gonna take a couple deep breaths. You wanna breathe with me? So that is not, is asking somebody to breathe giving them a timeout?
Yes, the way that you're explaining it.
Kind of, I mean, it's a stop that thought, and reset. You know, like we need to kind of just stop that thought, stop that interaction. So if you're in a power struggle, I'm going to jump down to avoidance of power struggle. So if a kid gets in a power struggle with you, walk away. You need to, if you're saying no, you can't jump off that building, and now you said, boy, it looks like you're attention seeking, and now they're getting angry with you, and they're starting to say nasty things to you, or threaten you. Instead of going back and forth with them in that interaction, walk away from the interaction. So they can't power struggle with somebody who's not there, right?
And you can give yourself a timeout. Like,
Absolutely.
I think I need a timeout.
Yeah.
Maybe like, what?
That's-
You're taking a timeout?
You ending the interaction or walking away is kind of a timeout.
Right.
Because it stopped that interaction. It stopped that behavior. So if you can't get them to leave, you leave. You end the interaction. Sometimes you're gonna have, you're acting as the parent. Parent's always a big person, right? I mean, childs are small, parents are big. But this other goes back to modeling. These children role model adults. You are the adult. So essentially you're teaching them not to get in a power struggle. Not to get in a power struggle. By avoiding their power struggle, you're really doing a good job modeling. Being an adult role model. So these kids can generalize from one place to the next. So the things that you expect on the unit, they should be able to do at home. They should be able to do it at school. They should be able to do it consistently. Now, we talked about consistency with the other kiddos, what we talked about more, this one is a consistent team approach, and it's different than a consistency, which is, this is always gonna be me always saying no. I'm gonna say no whenever you ask